Known as one of the 7 wonders of the world, Machu Picchu is located in Cusco, Peru. It resides 2,430 meters above sea level and covers 32,592 hectares of mountain terrain. It comprises more than 200 buildings, temples, houses, altars, and fountains made from gray granite from the mountaintop, with a road and trail system, irrigation canals, and agricultural terraces all connected by narrow pathways. The stone for its building was cut from steep slopes assembled together with astonishing precision for a civilization void of mortar, metal tools, or even a wheel. Machu Picchu was originally constructed in the 15th century but was soon abandoned in the late 16th century. There has been no evidence of the structure's existence in records of the Spanish conquistadors, which occurred during this time. Much of its excavation was done after its rediscovery in 1911 by a Yale professor, but the site was frequently used by local farmers between its abandonment. Along with the common knowledge of Machu Picchu as a world wonder, for about 53 years many believed that the Yale professor found the lost city of the Inca, but the true civilization city was found in 1964 west of Machu Picchu. So if not the central city of the empire, then what was the function of Machu Picchu? Built like a small metropolis with areas for congregation, religious and astronomical observations, and farming, the true intention and purpose of its construction is debated, modified, and expanded to this day. Though the separation, elevation, and moat-like structure around the site would make it easy to classify it as a military defense structure, many modern theories suggest otherwise. It may have served as a retreat-like escape for the Inca ruler or all of an elite class. Interestingly, the bones found show varying head structures and modeling, suggesting that other civilizations than the Inca occupied the space from varying neighboring regions. Artifacts like ceramics from the site match those of people from Lake Titicaca, located over 400 kilometers from Machu Picchu. Thus, it is very likely that many groups of people impacted the site, be it in its construction or use, but all from the same empire. There's a lot of evidence pointing to its contribution as an astronomical observatory for religious and agricultural purposes. The celestial and religious relationship is evident in the astronomical ties, names, and rulings of their deities whom they worshipped. Incas worshipped Haucas, which are spirits that reside in natural phenomena such as large waterfalls, boulders, rivers, and more. The Incan belief system was such that 3 worlds of the cosmos, the Uku Pacha, which is the underworld, the Ke Pacha, which is the here and now, and the Hanan Pacha, which is the world above, engaged in a water cycle, with the Milky Way replenishing the water on Earth. Another indication that Machu Picchu served as a connection to astronomy and religion is its mountain location. Mountains were deeply worshipped as homes of deities and sources of water. Observing astronomy here puts the Incas closer to the sky and on the land of their deities. Use of the Temple of the Sun and Intihuatana stone, elaborated further in the video, created the city's natural clock. The Incas could then identify constellations, stars, the changing of the seasons, and create an agricultural and religious calendar from the observations and patterns.
Incan mythology, religion, and creation stories were all deeply concerned with celestial activity. Believing the sun to be the father of civilization, it is no surprise that the Incans built structures honoring the sun, and further used these structures as astronomical tools to predict events, such as the solstices and the zenith crossing dates. The Temple of the Sun at Machu Picchu is one of such structures. The Temple of the Sun, or Torreon, at Machu Picchu was built at a high point on top of a large platform of bedrock with an unobstructed view of the eastern horizon. The temple has 2 windows, one facing northeast and one facing southeast. Inside the temple is a large obtrusive rock connected to the bedrock underneath the temple. The flat top of this rock has an edge carved through it facing towards the northeast window. However, the edge does not point directly at the center of the window, but it rather is at a slight angle. As it turns out, the edge aligns almost perfectly within 2 arc minutes with the sunrise of the summer solstice. Additionally, surrounding the window are pegs which might have been used to hang an object to cast a shadow on the room. Comparing the angle of this shadow with the angle of the edge would have allowed the Incans to calculate in days when the solstice was coming. Because Incan traditional celebrations of the summer solstice included first fasting for 3 days before the solstice, they needed to be able to accurately predict the specific date of the solstice. The Temple of the Sun would have allowed them to do so. Notably, another Temple of the Sun in Cusco had similar astronomical properties, so the Incans were well versed in these ideas enough to replicate them at multiple sites. The southeast window showed a region of the sky which included several important Incan constellations, such as the Tail of Scorpio, called Coca by the Indians. As well as this, the sun could not usually be observed from the southeast window, except for a short period of about 10 days on either side of the zenith passage, February 14th and October 29th, when the sun enters both windows during sunrise. In short, the Temple of the Sun could reasonably have been used for summer solstice predictions, as well as observations of constellations and the zenith passage, all of which were extremely relevant to Incan cultural tradition. The Temple of the Sun also sits on top of the royal mausoleum, where Incan elites would be mummified and buried, further demonstrating its cultural significance. Incans believed that humans were originally created by the sun and then placed in caves in the earth to eventually find their way out and wander until the sun gave them a sign they should settle in the ancient city of Cusco. Because of this, caves have great significance to the Incans. They believed caves were a passageway between the underworld and the here and now, and evidence of connections between caves and astronomical activity further connect them to the world above as well. An example of this is the Inti Machu, a small cave at Machu Picchu with a boulder forming its front wall. The boulder has a very small window carved into it, with only 1 to 2 degrees of horizon visible from it, and little sunlight entering the cave through the window. However, the window was aligned such that the cave would be illuminated for about 10 days before and after the winter solstice at sunrise. A possible explanation for the broad range of dates, compared to the Temple of the Sun's accuracy, is that the winter solstice fell during the Incan rainy season, so a broader range of dates was beneficial in being able to make sure visibility was achieved on at least one day.
The ancient Inca observed the night sky and integrated astronomical information into relevant cultural institutions and religious ceremonies. A notable astronomical site at Machu Picchu is the Intihuatana, a ritual stone used by Inca priests for astronomical observations of the sun. In Quechua language, Inti is the god of the sun. The Inca dedicated various ceremonies to the sun to ensure the welfare of the Sapa Inca, their absolute ruler. People in the highlands also tracked the sun throughout the dry and wet seasons to ensure the effective production of crops like maize and other grains. Thus, it was a critical obligation for priests to observe the sun and decode its patterns through the Intihuatana, an astronomical clock of significant celestial period. Intihuatana is derived from the native Quechua language and is a combination of the words Inti, meaning sun, Wata, meaning to tie or to hitch, and Na, a suffix meaning tools or places. This makes the Intihuatana an instrument or place to tie up the sun, commonly expressed as the hitching post of the sun. The Intihuatana of Machu Picchu was carved directly into a large slab of bedrock in the citadel's summit area. The stone stands aloft a tiered, pyramid-like structure that is thought to connect the 3 levels of Inca mythology at one focal point. The Intihuatana itself features complex surfaces, planes, and angles, and has a small rock needle tilted 13 degrees northward. While the function of the Intihuatana at Machu Picchu is an area of active research, experts speculate that it was used as a sundial. Notably, the structure is aligned with the sun's position during the winter solstice, when the sun's noontime declination appears to stand still relative to the background stars. This alignment suggests that, to the Inca, the stone held the sun in its place along its annual path in the sky. In addition to its solar alignment on the winter solstice, at midday on the equinoxes, the sun stands above the pillar, casting no shadow. On the summer solstice, the stone casts the largest shadow on its southern side, and a much shorter shadow on its northern side during the winter solstice. These differences in shadow length and position are only possible because the upper part of the stone has an inclination of 13 degrees, reaffirming the precision, depth, and extent of Incan astronomical knowledge. While the astronomical function of the Intihuatana was to indicate the position of the sun in the sky, it also served agricultural and religious purposes for Inca society. Agriculturally, the position of the sun relative to the Intihuatana was a method for timing production of crops. In terms of its religious significance, experts speculate that the Inca held rituals and ceremonies on solstices and equinoxes to hold the sun in its place, ensuring a successful harvest and continued prosperity of the empire. Notably, archaeologists have discovered similar Intihuatana stones in other Inca sites, reaffirming that astronomy, agriculture, and religion were mutually dependent practices in the Inca Empire that, when used together, ensured a more organized and stable society.